Well, finally, he's here, he's live, he's in studio. Well, we've been trying to get this man live on air for the last couple of weeks, and as I said, he's got a bit of a problem with time, but his story is fantastic. I mean, Chenchakulova, a name that he was given by Dr. Kaiser Mdaung himself, the founder of Kaizer Chiefs, one of the best players South Africa has ever produced, played for Orlando Pirates, played for Kaizer Chiefs, and properly developed by Kaizer Chiefs as well. Played alongside players such as Jabulani Mendu, Tiki Moki as well. But he'll tell us his story, and he's now a football agent or football manager, call it what you will. But he's here, he's live, he's in studio, and also can speak a bit of French, actually. I think I'll give him the opportunity to introduce himself. A real good afternoon to you, and how are you, sir?
Afternoon, SK. Afternoon to the listeners as well. It's a pleasure to finally be here. I know we've had a bit of problems in the past for me to get here. And I know that you were panicking that I might not get here on time, but yeah, I'm here. I made it on time.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm excited.
Absolutely. We are excited as well in regards to having you here, to be quite honest. Your story is something to really tell the youngsters and, the current players and the players of tomorrow, Lebogang. But I want you to, we're not going to start from your early ages. I just want you to take us through, how did you join Kaizer Chiefs Youth Academy, at what age? Who were your coaches? Who were some of the players that you played with at the club?
Okay, I think, let me try and retrace my steps. I think it was back in 2004, 2003, 2004, I'm not really sure. We were playing these interprovincial tournaments. So this one was held in Beaufort West, I think, if I remember correctly. So I was playing for the province of Limpopo. So we did well, I believe, in the tournament, and I did exceptionally well because I even won the player of the tournament. So I had a couple of offers, there was School of Excellence knocking, there was Supersport, there was Ajax Cape Town at the time, and Kaizer Chiefs, But initially my decision, or the decision in my head that I had, was to join Ajax because it was prestigious back then, And my second option was obviously Supersport, because at the time they still had that
Ajax Amsterdam.
Ajax Cape Town,
yeah.
And Supersport at the time they still had that partnership with Feyenoord.
Yes,
with Feyenoord. So that was attractive to me because since I was very young, the dream is always to play in Europe. It's always been there. My mother always says that. When I was about 3 years old, I used to tell them that I'll play in Europe one day, So that was attractive, about Supersport, and Ajax, obviously Ajax Amsterdam, with the likes of Steven Pienaar going over back in the day, So, but now, Chiefs was the one that actually, that were persistent, and with my late grandmother being a big fan of Kaizer Chiefs, she left me no choice. She told me that it's either I will join Chiefs or I have to find another home. Jokingly so,
Yeah.
But I think my decision was purely based on her desire and her dreams, So that's how it started. Back in 2004, I was around 13 or 14 at the time, So I progressed through the ranks, from under 15 up until the reserve team. I played with a quite number of great players, Look, with no disrespect to the current crop of players that are currently playing in the Chiefs Academy, but back in the day, it was very difficult and it was special for you to actually make it at teams like Chiefs or Pirates, because the pool of talent was so great, And I would say, since today I understand how football works, back in the day it was not business, everything was purely on merit, And even when Chiefs signed me, when I got there, when I came to Johannesburg the following year, I found out that there was another good 40 players on trial at the time, you know, and I thought that it was done, but only to my surprise, there were still other 40 players invited from all over the country, so they had to cut it down. And remember, I joined a team that just came back from England, the Nike Cup. They won the Nike Cup the previous year, so I had to join that team, you know. So it was very difficult because remember, they were the best under-15 team in the country at the time. So to break into that team and eventually be a starter in that team, it was, man, you had to work hard. And you really had to be special, you know, above all things, you know. I remember when I first got there, you know, it was the final months before Michael Roenkambule left for Strasbourg.
In France.
Yeah. And I used to watch him in those Coca-Cola under-17 tournaments. You know, he used to mesmerize everybody. And to watch him closely every day in training and see him, I was like, wow, there's actually players that can do things like this. You know?
I'm going to interject you because your story is it's quite interesting. You speak about how difficult it is to play for Chiefs, to play for Pirates, and a couple of years after you, because you are my senior, I joined Pirates. I understand how difficult it is. For you to have played for Chiefs at that time when it was extremely difficult, what did it mean to you?
Look, eventually in my head, you know, it actually struck me that, you know what, you're actually good enough. You know, you are a good player. And for you to break into a team like this, you know, and that is currently the best team in the country at that age group, you know, it really gave me that sense to actually believe that, you know what, I can really make a career out of this thing, you know, because, man, it was hard. I remember my first tournament I played, we played a tournament at Vets, you know, it was like around March. Super Sport at the time, the under-15s, they had players like Kamo Mukocho, they had Tato Mukeke, they had Kemeti Rasmus, they had Masubusane Zongo, they had Karabo Masehela Askara, who was the head coach of Northwest University, I think, for the past couple of seasons.
Yes.
He even won the Varsity Cup with them. You know, there were players like Pilani Kwela. You know, so I remember we got to the final. We played Super Sport, you know, and I never thought I'll get a run in that final because, I mean, these are like two established teams and players that have been together for a while, you know, and it's top level at the time, you know, and at that age group, you know. But I remember my coach was, I think it was Nzi at the time. Yeah, it was Coach Nzi at the time, you know. He gave me a run. I think I got in the second half, you know. And I managed to create 2 goals. We ended up winning that game 3-1. Because I got in, it was 1-1. It was a tight game. You know? But look, after that game, I really believed that, you know what, I'm finally here. You know, I'm playing with the big boys.
And another, you know, I tried making a couple of calls, you know, just to try and understand the type of player that you were at Chiefs. And the stories that I got from 3 sources of mine, it's a shame that you didn't make it at the first team of Chiefs. It's an absolute shame. I'm not saying this because you hear Chincha Kuluva, but really, it's a shame that South Africa didn't experience your talent and didn't see it at the highest level. The name Chincha Kuluva. I think it's just the chairman of Chiefs and you. Of course, the late Thomas Marichache Chincha Kuluva as well. But that name, how did that name come about? And I'm sure you've met the man a couple of times, but why did he decide to honor you with such a great name that he has been given with Chincha Kuluva?
Funny thing is, number one, I've never seen the man play. I can't even tell you what position he played, you know. But I remember when I was the captain of the under-15s the following year, after my first year, then my head coach was the late Ace Mapega Pants in Tsweleng. The man loved me. He loved me so much, you know. So every time, you know, I would sit with him, like before games, I would sit with him in his car, you know, he'd be playing jazz with his shirt unbuttoned to his chest down, you know, with his kamtre and all those things, you know. So he used to tell me a lot of stories about back in the day when he used to play, and he used to tell me stories about the chairman himself, you know. Then I said, you know what? I think I need to invite him to come and watch you play because I keep telling him that there's this boy, man, who reminds me of you. There's this boy, but he doesn't believe it. So one day we were playing a match. I forgot who we played on the day, and I didn't know that the man was there. Then after the game, realized that the coach called us, the late coach Asin Soleng, and he brought us to the car where the chairman was. And we came there to initially greet him, every player. And then after giving him handshakes, and everybody left, the coach asked me to remain behind. So it was just me, Coach Asin Soleng, and the chairman, Kezam Taung, So he had some words, that basically I would say he spoke life into me, and he said, you know what, Mapega Pants, he's always telling me about you, and today at least I got to see you. So his final words were, my son, from today, you'll be known as Chenchakulu. I was, look, at that moment it didn't actually, click, what the man just said, because you are in awe of, wow, this is the Kezam Taung, the owner of Kaiser Chiefs, and with such respect, you couldn't even look at the man in the eyes, but I remember vividly when he said those words, and I told the guys after that, and the coach himself started calling me that, and that's how the name just grew with me going forward,
It's unbelievable. And at the age you're 15 years of age?
I'm 14.
You're 14?
I'm 14 at the time.
Describe yourself as a player for those who never had an opportunity to watch you play. Of course, you've got one of the greatest names or nicknames in the history of South African football. It's the ones that come to my head. It's just three. It's the man himself, Tate Kezam Taung. It's Chincha Kuluva as well, or Thomas Marikach, and then it's you. Tell me about the type of footballer that you were, Lebogang. What type of football did you play that for you to be given such an honorary name?
I don't, how can I put it? Thinking back on how I used to stand out, I didn't have a lot of attributes, that will make me, a complicated player. Yes, skill I did have here and there, that came naturally, But I believe my biggest attribute in football was my passing ability, because I remember when I got to the under-17 team and I was coached by Coach Dr. Kumalo, another coach that I grew to be very close with, and he's the one that actually helped me identify my strongest point, which was the ability to pass. And he taught me how to improve it and actually master it, you understand? So I remember at under 17 level, we used to play a lot of tournaments, and we used to play across the country as well, So you could actually gauge yourself as to at what level you are at, So I actually started training a lot my passing ability that got to a point when I was at under 17 level, mind you, being a 15-year-old at under 17 level, I could hit a moving object at 20, 30, 40, 50 meters with both legs equally with the same intensity and power and accuracy, So I think that's what made me stand out, and I remember also when Coach Doctor told the late Coach Clive Barker about me, when I initially got chosen for that Coca-Cola Football Stars thing, when we traveled to Real Madrid. Remember there were special players in that group of mine as well, I was a midfield partner to Andy Lejali, at the time, But the one thing that made me stand out is my ability to pass a ball. You could wake me up at 3 a.m, drunk or sober. I would do the same thing till this very day.
Yeah.
You understand? So I think that's the one attribute that made me stand out, and everybody all across the country, people that know me till today, they will tell you that nobody could pass it the way this guy could pass it,
I want to personalize this as well. I need people to understand how it's not easy to pass. It's not only about passing, it's the weight of the pass, it's the technique, how you pass, it's the scale of it. And you're speaking about 50, 60 meters cross, to either side, changing or switching the ball with either left or right. Do you see a player now that you think has that ability? Let's just limit it to South African football. With all due respect, in the PSL, do you think there's anyone who has that ability that you had at 15, 16 years of age?
Look, I watch a lot of junior football, the GDL league. I watch a lot of these junior tournaments because those things are very close to me because they shaped me to be the type of player I eventually became, But look, with no disrespect, I've yet to see somebody who could do it the way I could do it. Prime example, I remember when we played the first edition of the Engine Cup, 2007. We were the first ones to play that tournament, I remember we played a quarterfinal match, Chiefs versus Supersport, at under 17 level. And remember, the same generation of players that I met at under 15, under 13 is the same generation. Now we're more mature. You've got the same players, Kamo Mukocho, you've got Tato Mukeke, everybody. And mind you, at the time, they were already under 17 national team players, which I was not, We played a quarterfinal match, smashed them 3-0. I remember it was the last game around 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon, top field at Max Park.
Yeah.
Everybody, all the clubs were out, and I had my fan base. I've got my homeboys at Pirates, and everybody was cheering for me. I remember before the game, Zongo came to me and said, "Yeah, Kuluva, whatever you're gonna do with your right, I'm gonna do it with my left. They will see who's the best today." So it was a very interesting match on the day. I think that was the day that me and Zongo became very close friends after that match, because it was just a show between me and him, for a good 20 minutes before he got injured and went out of the game, which was a turning point for us, because he was a special player, man. Zongo was special, and he was everything.
You speak about Masibuzani Zongo. We had I think I was at Vets. We played against Supersport United. It was with the under 19s. I was with the under 17s. And some of our left back faked an injury. He said, no, he's all right. That's the type of player he was. And when you speak about, you and him having a show, it tells you about the type of talent that you had. Your trip to Real Madrid at such a young age, it's something huge. Not a lot of 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds have that opportunity. As well for you, what did that mean for you? And the people that you told, who are some of the people that you told about this massive opportunity to travel into one of the biggest clubs in world football?
Look, number one, to me personally, in as much as my dream was to eventually play in Europe, it never really registered in my mind what was about to happen, on that trip up until I got there. Because remember, I was in the second group of that Coca-Cola the third group of that Coca-Cola project. Because the group before us in 2006, it was the Mandla Masangos, the Lawrence Mulekwanis that went to Leeds. They played Leeds, and I forgot another club. They were in England, and then we got to go to Madrid. Only when I got there, I think I was sharing it on my statuses yesterday that I think the turning point in my life was when I got to Real Madrid, because a whole new world just opened up in front of me, and things that I used to see on TV were now a reality to me. I saw them up close and personal, and seeing how the professionalism and how players train, how players behave. When we got to Ciudad Real Madrid City, when I saw everything, I thought I was in the best place in Africa, possibly at Kaizer Chiefs. But when I got there, I realized, it looks like I'm actually at an amateur club compared to what I saw there.
Yeah,
man, massive, and like that memory will remain with me for the rest of my life. Because I saw things that I never knew existed. You saw like recovery pools just by the fields. You got to see, like, after training sessions, you've got jacuzzis in the change rooms. And this was a facility for the academy, not for the senior team. for the academy. You know, the cafeterias, you know, the massage rooms. Man, it was a different world, you know, and it changed my life. It changed my life forever, you know. And that experience, you know, it's priceless, and no one in the world that can ever go through such an experience will remain the same. Believe you me, you can never remain the same.
You come back from that trip as well. You play for Chiefs. Until which age group did you play for Chiefs? Did you have an opportunity to be promoted to the first team? Maybe just take us through that. At what age group did you end at Chiefs? When you left the club, why did you leave? The situation that you left under.
Okay. Remember when I was already at 15, when Mushina Trigal was the head coach, I was already training with the senior team at 15. You know, what they used to do is on Thursdays, they used to have like friendly matches for guys that were not in the team, the traveling team for the league game.
Yeah.
You know, so the guys that remain behind, whenever there's like a shortage of players, they would call some few players from the academy to come and fill in the gap, you know. Basically, they were preparing you and giving you an experience at the same time.
Yeah.
You know, but to get it at 15, you know, you are playing in a friendly match, and in front of you there's Brati, Tiki, there's Sbeko in front of you, you know, there's Gert, there's Skara, you know, like it was amazing, you know. So I trained with them since 15, played under 17, played under 19, played reserves. Initially got promoted to the senior team, but now when I was supposed to be given a contract, now there were a lot of politics involved, you know. Like I was talking to Mr. Mudao, the agent of Kapinga, yesterday, you know. So he was asking me like, but like Gulova, how did you not even like play in the senior team? You know, based on what I hear from everybody, how, like it doesn't make sense. Look, I said, it's only now I realized that, you know, had I had an agent or somebody who was pushing my agenda, I think things would have turned out differently, you know, because talent-wise, or what I used to do on the field, it was undeniable, you know, but there was that little push that was needed for somebody to convince somebody and say, no, but give this boy a chance. So it never happened, but I stayed with the senior team, training with them, you know, to a point where I asked for loans for like a good 2 years, you know, asking for a loan or asking for a clearance. I want to leave. Look, I see that I'm not going to get an opportunity to play. So rather, give me my papers, let me go and play somewhere where I will be appreciated and given an opportunity, you know, to play at this level, you know, but never happened.
Why? You get to the club at the age of 14, you're doing absolutely special things, passing the ball with left, right, a bit of skill here and there, and possibly maybe you were promoted at 18, 19, or given an opportunity to travel with the team here and there. What do you think was the main stumbling block for you not to be given that contract that you deserved with the first team of Kaizer Chiefs?
To be honest with you, I cannot point at a specific thing and say this happened or that happened or this person said this. I don't really know, because already at under 17, I had offers from different clubs. I had offers from Vets, I had offers from Tuks, I had offers from Swallows, from Platinum Stars. It was still Silver Stars at the time, you know. Senior team football, you understand? But they believed that I was not yet ready, you know, for the big time football. So it got to a point, I think around 2009, you know, when guys like Sianda came through, and then I saw them leave and then get promoted at Sundowns and play first team football. Then you see guys that you smash week in, week out at what's this team from Pretoria? What's this team that George Lewis used to play for?
Is it in the PSL?
No. George Lewis played for it. When he came to Chiefs, he was from that club and from Pretoria. You know, when you saw them, I mean, just a week ago, we smashed them like 9-0. Then the next thing, you see him training with the senior team, and you ask yourself, but then if they can go and fetch this guy that I dominated less than 7 days ago, then what am I doing here? So it got to a point where eventually, honestly speaking, and people that were there and people that know the story, I always tell them, and they know, I became rebellious. You understand? There were instances where I told them that I'm not going to train because I don't want to play for this team anymore. You know, there were instances where guys would be training and I would just walk on the field and watch them train. And nobody would say anything. You understand? But I kept on telling them that, guys, I want to leave. I want to leave. I want to leave. You know, some games I wouldn't attend. I would travel with the team in the bus. When I get to the game, I tell the coach Ace Kuse, that, Coach, I'm not going to play. After Coach Ace Kuse, there was Fani Madida when he got demoted to the reserves. I would tell him, the coach, I'm not going to play. I don't want to play. I don't want to play for this team. You understand? So it got to that point, you know. So the worst part when VV came on board, you know, and he came and watched a couple of our games, and I was the first player that he said that I should now join the senior team. But now, because I was rebellious and things like that, you know, I saw them promote players in front of me and offer them contracts. So that actually was like the boiling point for me. So one day I just decided to pack my bags and just go home. You know, I went home. They started calling after a couple of days. I told them that I'm not coming back. I just need my papers. You know, and I remember I had a meeting with somebody in the hierarchy at Chiefs. You know, they called me back. I went to the village, and he told me to my face. I don't want to mention names, but he told me to my face that, look, you will never play for any club in South Africa. If you don't want to play here, then you will never play anywhere. And lo and behold, I probably sat at home for like almost 2 years without a club. Because everywhere I went, bro, I went to Black Leopards. You know, within 2 days, TDL wanted to sign. They're asking you about the clearance. Where's your clearance? I said, it's at Kaizer Chiefs. They tell you, hey, we're not going to step any boundaries. Go and fetch your clearance, you know. I went from team to team, and nothing materialized because I never had that clearance, you know. And Chiefs would tell those clubs that, no, that boy, you won't touch that boy. Sat at home for a good 2 years without playing any competitive football.
But then, it's a sad story. It's extremely sad, and you're going through this at such a young age. Who was there for you? Who did you speak to? What did it do to you at such a young age, experiencing what you went through at that age? Who supported you? Who did you speak to? What were your emotions at that time?
I think, if I'm trying to think about it, because it's a very good question, because nobody's ever asked me how I felt and what I was going through. I think at some point I was emotionless about it, and at some point I hated football. And mind you, during these 2 years, it happened that I got a national team call-up at under 23 level without playing for any club. Can you imagine? So psychologically, you know, it actually even frustrates you more, you know, because look, I'm without a club, but Brashik is calling me for the national team. I'm playing Olympic qualifiers against Mo Salah, but I have no club. And it got to a point where Brabi, there used to be a team manager called Brabi, Bani Kujan. He came to me and said, look, Leboa, we just had a meeting with Coach, with Brashik and Coach David Moton. Look, they love you, but the problem is they can no longer continue calling you if you're without a club, you know. But now, I told Brabi, I said, Brabi, but my problem is I don't have papers. And I'm not going to get my release letter. So how am I supposed to join a club? I've tried what I could try. You know, and mind you, that time I didn't even have an agent. So everything I used to do through a friend that I knew at the club who would speak to somebody, they would invite me to come for training. And when they saw me in training, they'd be like, no, come. Then after a couple of days, they'll be like, where's your papers? Kaizer Chiefs. Oh, wow. Back to square one, you know. So it was tough. It was tough. I don't want to lie. It was tough, you know. I had nobody to talk to, you know, because I didn't know anybody within the structures of football that I could go to and speak to, besides Coach Dr. Kumar. He was the guy that I would usually give a call and say, Coach, but I'm going through this. You know, what can I do? Can you help? Can you help me get the papers? But he was also powerless in that regard, you know. So it was a tough 2 years. I don't want to lie. It was a tough 2 years. But when I eventually got my release letter, you know, through my mother, who happened to be, you know, close friends to Coach Steve Kompella's elder brother, who knew somebody that was very close to somebody in the hierarchy at Kaizer Chiefs. Then they eventually spoke, because they were business partners, So after speaking business, they said, Ish, but I've got Ntwane, so he needs this. Can you just do me this favor? Then that's how I eventually got to get my clearance letter, But after 2 years of no competitive football.
It's very long in football. It's extremely long.
It's long and it's frustrating. And remember, when you go home, people regard you as this top player, you are this top prospect, and you're still young. I mean, when I left, I was old, 17, 18, around that time? Because I remember my first cap at under 23, I was around 17, turning 18. That was my very first cap. So you can imagine, I left Chiefs very early, very young, you understand? But look, I just kept on going. I just kept on going and hope that one day things will change. Eventually it did change, but I believe some years were robbed. In that whole situation. I wouldn't say some of my best years, but some of my best young years were robbed. In that whole situation. But anyway, it's life. It happened.
Sure. It's 2 minutes after 2:00. This is where we close the show. Unfortunately, we didn't even touch on your career now as a football agent. You're managing a Bafana Star as well, Sianda Kulu. You're managing some of the players out in Europe, in France, in the low leagues of European football as well. Live on air, do you confirm for another conversation in regards to your career?
Look, that's a new chapter in my life. It's beautiful, and I love it. I got to love it. I got to grow to love it, and it has challenged me in different aspects of my life. And it has tested my character as a man too. It has tested my intelligence, and my football knowledge as well. Because I've done some really, I wouldn't say shady, but deals that my life was really threatened, out in Eastern Europe, where you're doing a deal in a mansion in the mountains, in the Balkan mountains, and they're telling you, if you're not going to sign this document, do you know that we can make you disappear and bury you in any one of these mountains and nobody will ever find you? I've been in situations like that they had to test your character. That's when I knew that, football is mafia business. That's when reality hit. So, look, it's a pity that we don't have much time, to indulge in that, but I've got some crazy stories,
There's a couple of people that are listening, other radio stations as well, and I'm not going to allow you to do other radio interviews up until you end your stories. I think that's a commitment that I need from you, and I think in the next 2 weeks, a full hour is yours to speak about your beautiful career now, the players that you're managing. With partly, I think we need to close properly your footballing career at Chiefs. What happened afterwards as a player, the day that you decided, let me just focus on something else? Do you commit to another day? Do you commit to an hour? Do you commit that no other interviews with other radio stations?
No, for you, I put my head on the block. As long as it can happen within this next week or two before I start traveling again, because the window we are fast approaching the window.
True.
So I need to start going to work again. But yeah, I'd love for people to hear the transition from being a player and now being a player manager, which a lot of, I'd say, West African players are now taking that route, and if you're gonna jump into that without understanding the challenges thereof, I don't think you will last, because it's as equally as hard as being a player. Trust me. So I believe you need either connections or some type of special grace for people to be willing to sit down and listen to you. I travel the world. I knock on doors, and even doors that I was never even invited to come and knock on. But people eventually sit down and say, okay, let's listen to you. Let's listen to what you have to say, So that's what I'm saying. It's either you have that connections or you have a special grace on your life, to do these things.
It's by far one of the most heartbreaking stories I've ever heard, and I think this is probably I think it's my 38th or 9th show here. By far one of the most touching stories in regards to your footballing career, how it ended at one of the most glamorous and beautiful football clubs, not only on the African continent but in the world as well. But I want to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your story with me, with us, with our listeners. And if you didn't hear this, but I'm sure you did, the stories that I heard about you when you were still playing, it's unbelievable. You were gifted, you were skilled. I always say to Themba Zwane when I speak to him is that, he's God's gift to football. And I place you par him. May God bless your journey. May you continue, serving the interest of footballers. I know the type of human being that you are. But Chincha Kuruva, thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. And I think in the next week or the week after, we're definitely going to have part 2 and just speak about what you're doing now. I'm blown away.
No, look, the pleasure is actually mine. I always wanted my story to be heard, at a broader, or by a broader audience, because everybody keeps on telling me the same thing, bro. The world needs to hear your story because your story it's just amazing.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And how you managed to pick yourself up, and build something new out of nothing. Look, I believe every man that is born, or every human being that is born, you have a destiny over your life. You just need to know, where God has actually aligned you to go, and you need to tap onto the right frequencies, to lead you to your destination. So everybody has a beautiful story to tell.
We are closing the show. It's 8 minutes after 2 o'clock, way after extra time as well. It's Black Friday here at Bogot Radio. I need you to close the show in French. I know someone told me you're very fluent in French. Tell our listeners to listen to you in the next couple of weeks. Tell our listeners to also buy some of the brands or Bogot Man merchandise, and there's a 35% off all our clothes in French. For the first time, this is history as well. You're the one that's going to close this show. That's the respect that I hold for you, the regard that I have for you. But the stage is yours. Close the show, and please do as I've asked you.
Merci beaucoup, mon frère. Écoutez, je suis là chez Bogot. Il y a le spécial du Black Friday. Il y a des bonnes choses, très bonnes choses. Si vous voulez venir ici pour regarder, peut-être vous pouvez trouver quelque chose qui peut vous plaisir. Et écoutez, j'espère que la prochaine semaine, sinon l'autre semaine, je serai là. On peut discuter encore. Je voulais vous dire mon histoire. Et voilà. J'espère qu'aujourd'hui, vous avez un bon 35 minutes comme ça. Vous avez écouté mon histoire et c'était bien. Et j'espère qu'à la prochaine, on peut discuter encore en plus. Ciao.
Voila. Well, that's the first part of Chincha Kuluva, Lebogang Mashishi. Goodness me. We're done. We're out of here. Bogot Man, Black Friday as well. Get your sales, everything that you need to get. What a show. We're back again next week.